Hello friends, hope you all are well. Welcome back to Dog Breed Info Share. Today, we're diving into a fascinating comparison between two unique canines, the Australian Dingo and American Dingo. The American Dingo isn't truly wild but is actually the Carolina Dog, a rare breed found in the southeastern United States. The Carolina Dog looks so much like a dingo that it's often called the American Dingo. These two dogs not only look alike, but they also share many other similarities. Let's first explore their history and understand what traits they have in common. The origins of these two dogs remain somewhat mysterious, but one thing is certain: their roots go back to the ancient primitive dogs of Asia. Until recent years, it was widely believed that modern dingoes are descended from Indian pariah dogs, or ancient primitive dogs of Asia, which were brought to Australia around 3,000 years ago by seafaring traders from Southeast Asia, and may have later mixed with native canines or other local breeds. Researchers believe that around 3,000 years ago, people from Southeast Asia, including regions such as Indonesia, Timor, and New Guinea, traveled toward Australia using small boats and canoes. This route is considered the most logical explanation for how dingoes, or their ancestral dogs, were carried across the sea by human migrants. The genetic studies have revealed that the ancestors of dingoes came from ancient dogs of Southeast Asia, mainly from regions like Thailand and the surrounding mainland. Even today, some dogs in Thailand and nearby areas share DNA similarities with dingoes. The recent mitochondrial DNA, mtDNA, studies trace the origins of dingoes to East Asia, with possible migration routes through Southeast Asia. More recent morphological and genomic research, however, points to even closer genetic ties with dogs from East Asia and New Guinea. The Carolina dog was first observed in the 1970s by Dr. I. Lair Brisbane. He found free-ranging, dingo-like dogs living in the swamps and forests of South Carolina and Georgia. Their genetic studies show that Carolina dogs have ancient Asian dog ancestry, possibly brought by early humans migrating to North America thousands of years ago, similar to how dingoes reached Australia. DNA studies suggest that their ancestors came from Asia, brought by the very first humans who crossed the Bering Land Bridge into North America more than 12,000 years ago. Over centuries, these dogs adapted to life in the wild, surviving on instinct alone. DNA studies and their breed history reveal the facts and also clears up some common myths. First, Australian dingoes are not descendants of the Indian pariah. They are completely separate breeds, in fact different species. But here's the interesting part: the American dingo does share an ancient connection. The Carolina dog and the Indian pariah can be seen as distant cousins, both tracing their roots back to the primitive dogs of ancient Asia. In these pictures, you can see the resemblance there is between the Carolina dog and the Indian pariah. People often wonder whether the dingo is simply a dog, a wild dog, or a rare member of the dog family, or if it is an entirely separate species. While most consider it part of the dog family and recognize it as a type of wild dog, but there are exceptions. According to a study reported in The Conversation, dingoes are so distinct from domestic dogs that they should be classified as their own species. Over the years, they have been referred to by several scientific names: Canis lupus dingo, a subspecies of the wolf; Canis familiaris, a domestic dog; and Canis dingo, a separate species within the Canis genus. Should be classified as their own species, referred to as Canis dingo rather than Canis familiaris. From these facts, we can conclude that both of these dogs have an ancient history and a unique identity of their own. For the dingo, DNA reports suggest the presence in Australia for at least 3,000 years, while some researchers believe their true origins may stretch back 12,000 to 18,000 years. Today, however, studies indicate that only about 64% of dingoes remain purebred. In the next part of the video, let's explore what their genetic studies reveal. Although these two dogs have no genetic link, their appearance and physical structure are strikingly similar. Let's take a closer look at their physical traits. Australian dingoes typically stand 19 to 23 inches tall, while Carolina dogs are slightly shorter at 18 to 22 inches. Dingoes usually weigh between 45 and 70 pounds, a bit heavier than Carolina dogs, which range from 35 to 65 pounds. The difference is more noticeable in females. Female dingoes generally weigh 45 to 60 pounds, whereas female Carolina dogs weigh around 35 to 50 pounds. Australian dingoes are believed to have a comparatively stronger bite force than American dingoes, Carolina dogs, with estimates ranging around 330 to 340 psi. In contrast, Carolina dogs are thought to possess a bite force within the typical domestic dog range of approximately 200 to 300 psi. Both of these dogs are excellent runners, but the Carolina dog is slightly slower, reaching speeds of about 20 to 25 kilometers per hour. In comparison, the Australian dingo can run at around 25 to 30 miles per hour, and some owners have even reported dingoes reaching close to 35 miles per hour. Australian dingoes rely heavily on independent learning rather than following commands and are renowned for their exceptional problem-solving abilities. However, they are more difficult to train compared to Carolina dogs. While dingoes can pick up tasks quickly, they often display a stubborn and dominant nature. In contrast, Carolina dogs are intelligent and relatively easier to train, though their strengths lie more in social awareness than in the complex problem-solving skills like dingoes. Both the Carolina dog, American dingo, and the Australian dingo have an average lifespan of 12 to 15 years in captivity or protected reserves. Although the breed standard defines their maximum lifespan as around 15 years, many owners report that their dogs have lived 16 years or even longer. Every dog has its own unique traits, and the Australian and American dingoes are no exception. Let's explore what makes them special. By breed standards, dingoes and Carolina dogs aren't pure white. They are often called the red wild dog and the yellow American dog. Yet, rare pure white individuals have been found, and DNA tests confirm they are true purebreds. Although dingoes and Carolina dogs share many similarities in appearance and physical structure, the dingo's strength and flexibility are far greater than those of the Carolina or any other dog. This makes it a formidable hunter and perfectly adapted to survive in the wilds of Australia. According to Dr. Smith, scientific director of the Australian Dingo Foundation, the dingo's physical structure and super flexible joints are truly remarkable. For example, dingoes can not only turn their heads left and right, but also lift them upward to look straight above or even behind, just as you can see in this picture. At the Dingo Discovery Center, Lynn Watson and volunteer Matthew Collins also demonstrated a dingo's incredible flexibility, which you can see here in the video. Dingoes usually keep their distance from humans and are not aggressive even when encounters occur. Compared to other wild dogs, they are considered more friendly, and some people have even kept them as pets with positive experiences. However, there have also been rare cases where dingoes have attacked toddlers or even adults, though such incidents are extremely rare. People often ask, are Carolina dogs wild or domesticated? They're usually seen as semi-wild or a primitive breed. For thousands of years, they lived in the wild, and it was only after the 1970s that people started keeping them as pets. So, like the Australian dingo, they're not fully wild, but not completely domesticated either, somewhere in between, and categorized as semi-wild dogs. As we know, dogs are descendants of wolves, and to some extent, all dogs howl. Normally, most dogs bark about 95% of the time and howl only around 5%. Some exceptions exist, such as wolf dogs, Alaskan Malamutes, and a few others, which howl about 15 to 20% of the time. Dingoes, however, are quite different. They howl far more often than they bark, with howling making up nearly 40 to 60% of their vocal behavior. You may also notice that a dingo's barking pattern, style, and sound resemble wolf dogs more than domestic dogs.
Hope you enjoyed the video. Please smash the like button and subscribe for more awesome comparisons.